Hi, Kevin Coop here, and this is a special FaceTime with the content guy. It's Monday morning. Morning Newsbeat is back, and I'm actually reporting this at the first annual Organic Produce Summit in Monterey, California. Let me tell you, that place there is packed. This is the first show. They're already almost too big for that room. It is so crowded in there. The people both on the retail side, the grower side, the supplier side, all talking about the excitement of organic produce. And this is a great event. And listen, it's hard to do a show like this, and I really can appreciate what they've done to make this work. I think there are some common themes that have emerged from this show that I wanted to talk about a little bit. Mark Bittman, formerly of the New York Times, was the keynote speaker. And one of the things that he talked about is that, basically this industry has a simple story. A simple story. He talked about the fact that it's real food versus hyper-processed food. Making the point, and I don't think anybody would disagree with this, that real food is better for you. That's a story that the industry needs to tell. He talked about real food is not necessarily only organic food. There's a big continuum in there when it comes to the idea of real food. Organic food is better maybe than conventional food. Local is better than organic. The more you drill down, obviously it's better for the consumer, although there's always the problem of affordability. And this was a really interesting thing that he brought up. He talked about the idea that for a lot of people in the industry, and he would agree with this, food is simply too inexpensive. Too inexpensive. The problem is that if you're going to produce real food, it's going to have to be more expensive, and yet the consumer perception is that food is too expensive. That's a really interesting dichotomy, and it's the reason that cheap fast food places are able to do real well. They're able to sell the notion of cheap food as opposed to better food. Retailers in the supermarket industry are going to have to deal with this dichotomy and figure out, especially as costs go up and labor costs go up, production costs go up, how are they going to convince people that it's more important to cook real food, to eat real food, and not to kind of fall back on old and bad habits. Let's see. One of the things I had a chance to do was I had a chance to MC a panel in which we talked about organic food and e-commerce. And we had some really interesting panelists. We had a guy named Thaddeus Barsati, who has a company called Farm Fresh to You. And basically what they do is they provide boxes of food. You can subscribe to it. And they're using the internet to be able to tailor those boxes so people are getting the fresh product that they want. Much of it from their farms, but they will source from outside. But again, understanding what consumers want and being able to tell them a compelling story. We had Mike Burrington, who used to be at Amazon Fresh and now is at IdeoClick, talking a lot about how Amazon, certainly in the old days, was able to use consumer data to tell a story. And that's a really important point. Data is great, but if you can use the data to tell a compelling story, to sell stuff to consumers, to make stuff available for them to buy, that's where the rubber meets the road. And finally, we had Tony Stallone with Peapod. And he said something really interesting, which is if you look at the baskets of people who are buying organic food, those baskets in general tend to be bigger. And he said they know that because they're looking at the data, but he pointed out that, listen, it may be that traditional retailers who are not accessing data in the way that e-retailers will, they may not know that. So the organic consumer may have simply much greater value than even traditional retailers or some even e-tailers may be thinking. Listen, this is a great conference. They've already scheduled 2017. It'll be back in Monterey. God, I hope they invite me to come back. And it's a great place to share ideas, and I'm glad I had a chance to share some of it with you. Anyway, that's what's on my mind. And as always, I'm glad Morning Newsbeat is back, and I want to hear what's on your mind.